The rain hit the pavement like shrapnel. Sergeant Malik Hayes tightened his grip on the paper bag, holding his daughter's birthday gift, a small silver bracelet, engraved with her initials. He was only a few blocks from home when the police lights sliced through the downpour, painting his reflection red and blue. Hands where I can see them. The officer's voice cracked through the storm. White, mid-40s, jaw like granite. Officer Bradley Kane. He didn't ask for ID. He didn't look at Malik's uniform. The camouflage jacket still marked with his unit patch. Malik froze. The training kicked in.com, measured. Sir, don't move. Kane barked. Gun raised now, knuckles pale. Pedestrians hesitated under umbrellas, pretending not to see. A teenager filmed from across the street, shaky hands capturing history repeating itself. Malik lowered himself slowly, palms open. You're making a mistake. Kane stepped forward, voice low enough for only Malik to hear. You people are always making mistakes. The words sliced deeper than the rain. Cuffs snapped cold around Malik's wrists. His gift hit the ground, cracking open, the bracelet rolling into a storm drain. Static filled the radio. Backup arriving. Kane's breath fogged as he muttered something about suspected theft. Then came the silence, heavy, suffocating, broken only when another officer's flashlight caught something on Malik's chest. A small velvet box, half visible under his jacket, dislodged in the scuffle. Inside, a glint of gold, the Medal of Honor. Kane's face drained of color. His hands faltered on the cuffs. The crowd began to murmur. Phones rose higher. Malik met Kane's eyes, rain streaking down his face like tears he refused to shed. Now, Malik said quietly, do you still see a suspect? Cut to black. Rain hammered the asphalt as Malik Hayes drove the last stretch toward home, windshield wipers slapping in rhythm with his heartbeat. His uniform jacket hung on the passenger seat beside the small paper bag, containing his daughter's bracelet, the only thing bright in a gray night. He'd spent 15 months overseas. The smell of wet concrete and gasoline felt almost foreign, a home he was relearning. Then came the lights, blue, red, reflex, made him slow. Pull over. He rolled down his window halfway, hands visible on the steering wheel, every movement measured. Textbook.com. A flashlight pierced his face. License and registration, said the voice. No greeting, no reason. Malik passed his ID through the gap. The beam stayed on his skin. What's in the bag? My daughter's birthday gift. Step out of the vehicle. He hesitated. Sir, may I ask why? The officer's tone sharpened. I said step out. Malik obeyed. The rain soaked through his shirt immediately. The second cruiser arrived, 2 silhouettes now, guns holstered, hands ready. Where you coming from? Fort Benning. I just got back. That right? The smirk cut through the storm. He watched Kane's eyes flick over him, the kind that measured threat, not truth. Malik's instinct screamed to de-escalate. Years of training. He spoke evenly. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. Put your hands behind your back. He complied. Cuffs snapped shut, a sharp sting of metal and shame. Pedestrians slowed. Phones appeared. Someone whispered, he's a soldier. Man. Kane ignored it. Suspicious behavior. Possible theft. From the gutter, the paper bag split open, silver glint swallowed by rainwater. Malik closed his eyes. The old discipline kept his breathing steady. He thought of his daughter's laughter, her small hands waiting for him tomorrow. Kane pushed him toward the cruiser, muttering, another one of those heroes, huh? No rage, only exhaustion. Malik's voice was low, steady. You'll regret this, officer. Kane laughed under his breath. We'll see about that. Thunder rolled, cameras flashed, in the rearview mirror. Malik watched the bracelet sink beneath the water, vanishing. Like the dignity stripped from him in seconds, he said nothing more. He didn't have to. The storm would speak for him soon enough. Fluorescent light hummed above like an insect caught in a trap. Malik sat cuffed to a metal chair in the precinct intake room, his wet clothes clinging to his skin. The air smelled of disinfectant and burnt coffee. Every sound a slammed drawer. A phone ringing hit like an insult. Officer Kane stood across from him, filling out a report without looking up. Name, he said flatly. You already have it. Kane's pen scratched louder. Spell it. Malik's jaw tightened. Sergeant Malik Hayes, United States Army. Kane paused for half a second, then resumed writing. Occupation, none listed. Malik's eyes lifted. Occupation, active duty combat medic. No acknowledgement, just the rhythmic thud of keys on an old keyboard. A younger officer nearby, Hispanic, maybe mid-20s, shifted uneasily. He glanced at Malik. then away. The hierarchy of silence held. Kane finally looked up, lips curling. What were you doing in that neighborhood? Going home. Funny place for a soldier to live. Malik's fingers flexed against the cuffs. The chair legs screeched faintly on the floor. You've made a mistake. Kane leaned forward, elbows on the desk. You matched a description of what? Suspicious male, dark jacket, walking with a bag. Malik exhaled slowly. That's half the city. What's your tone? Kane snapped. The younger officer cleared his throat. Sir, his ID checks out. Kane cut him off with a glare. I'll decide what checks out. Malik said nothing. He'd seen men like Kane before, men whose authority depended on others believing they never made mistakes. Minutes passed, paperwork shuffled. Somewhere, a printer beeped. Then the phone on the desk rang. Kane picked it up lazily. 5th Precinct. Kane, he listened. His expression shifted. Who? Another pause. Yes, sir. He's here. He hung up, turned stiffly to Malik. Your CO just called. Malik met his stare. Then you know who I am. Kane's jaw worked. We still need to verify a few details. Do you? Malik's voice was calm, dangerous in its restraint. Or are you stalling because you know this shouldn't have happened? Kane slammed the file shut. You don't get to tell me how to do my job. Malik tilted his head, eyes cold. You already did your job. You humiliated a soldier on camera. The young officer shifted again. Sir, maybe we should get him processed. Kane barked. We're not done here. The officer hesitated. Sir, his commanding officer. I said process him. Malik watched the cracks spread across Kane's composure. It was the look of a man realizing the ground beneath him was giving way but refusing to step back. Another voice echoed from the hallway. Firm, female, authoritative. Which one of you detained Sergeant Hayes? A captain entered, rain still streaking her coat. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on Malik, then Kane. Uncuff him, she ordered. Kane froze. Ma'am, protocol. Uncuff him. Her tone could cut steel. The young officer hurried over, keys trembling in his hand. The metal snapped open, releasing Malik's wrists. The captain stepped closer. Sergeant Hayes, I'm deeply sorry for this. You're free to go. Kane's mouth opened, then closed. The room's silence was suffocating. Malik stood, rubbing his wrists. His eyes never left Kane's face. You should learn what a hero looks like, officer. Kane's throat bobbed. I didn't. Yes, Malik interrupted softly. You did. The captain placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. We'll be in touch about your statement. Malik nodded once, picked up his damp jacket, and turned toward the door. As he walked out, every eye followed, some guilty, some afraid, none brave. Outside, the night air hit like freedom and acid at once. Sirens wailed in the distance, mocking echoes of the ones that started it all. He opened his phone. Messages were already flooding in. Calls from friends, his commanding officer, even a reporter. Then one notification froze him. Viral officer detains decorated soldier in mistaken arrest. Malik watched the thumbnail of the video, his own face lit by police lights. The caption beneath, twisting the knife. Another one. He pocketed the phone and started walking home. Each step was heavy, deliberate. The war had followed him back. And this battlefield was colder by dawn. The world had already chosen sides. The video, 36 seconds of rain, shouting, and humiliation, flooded every screen. Someone had slowed it down, looping the moment Kane's voice cracked through. You people are always making mistakes. It became a rallying cry and a weapon. Malik woke to his phone vibrating nonstop. Notifications lit the dark room in bursts. His daughter Alina slept beside him, small and peaceful under her cartoon blanket. He turned off the screen before the noise reached her. In the kitchen, the television news anchors spoke with practiced neutrality. Viral footage from Atlanta showing the arrest of a decorated black soldier has sparked outrage nationwide. His face, his humiliation filled the frame. The freeze frame caught him mid-turn, eyes wide, the cuffs visible. The caption read, hero or suspect. He muted the TV. The silence was worse. A knock came at the door. His friend and fellow soldier, Tyrone Jackson, stepped in, phone in hand. Man, you're everywhere. CNN, BBC, TikTok. They're calling for the cop's badge. Malik poured coffee, steady hands betraying inner tremor. That's not justice. That's noise. Tyrone frowned. Noise changes things now. You, of all people, should know that. Malik sat, rubbing his temples. It shouldn't take a video for people to care. Tyrone shrugged, bitterness softening into fatigue. It always takes a video. The words landed heavy. Later that afternoon, a local reporter waited outside his apartment, microphone ready, voice too bright for the occasion. Sergeant Hayes, can we get a statement on what happened last night? Malik stared past her. Ask Officer Kane. The clip aired that evening, edited down to a single soundbite. Ask Officer Kane. It went viral again by nightfall. His commanding officer called. Hayes, the Army's public affairs wants you to stay quiet for now. We're handling this diplomatically. Malik repeated, voice flat. I was handcuffed in uniform. I know, but if we make this political, it already is. Static, then, just stay calm, Sergeant. Let us work. He hung up. Hours later, the department released a statement. Officer Kane acted in accordance with standard procedure in response to a call about a suspicious person. We are reviewing the incident internally. Standard procedure. Malik read the words twice, feeling something twist inside. Tyrone texted him a link. Read the comments. Bro, he did. Half were furious. He's a hero. Fire that racist cop. The other half were poison. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. Bet. He resisted. Race card again. The same country that pinned a medal on his chest was now debating his worth like a headline poll. By midnight, his face had become an icon, an image reshaped by strangers. Some drew strength from it. Others hurled hate. Neither saw the man. In the morning, Alina climbed onto his lap, eyes curious. Daddy, why are people saying bad things about you? Malik froze. Her innocence was sharper than any insult. They don't know the truth, he said softly. Then tell them. He looked at her, the simplicity of her solution almost breaking him. Not everyone listens when people like me tell the truth. She frowned. Then make them listen louder. He smiled, a tired, broken smile that barely reached his eyes. Maybe one day. The news kept playing. Officer Kane hadn't been suspended. The police union stood by him, citing stress and confusion during a high-pressure stop. Reporters speculated. Politicians tweeted. Hashtags burned bright and died fast. Through it all, Malik remained still, calm like the eye of a hurricane that refused to move. He turned off every screen in his apartment and looked out the window. The city lights shimmered in the wet streets below, reflections trembling like his own certainty. He whispered to no one, they'll forget by next week. But deep down, he knew some storms never passed by the third day. Malik's name was everywhere, on screens, in headlines, on protest signs held high outside the Atlanta police headquarters. The air buzzed with cameras and chants. Reporters called him Sergeant Hayes, the decorated soldier, the wrong man in cuffs. He hated every version. The Army had released a brief statement confirming his Medal of Honor status. It wasn't meant to inflame, only to clarify. But clarity burned brighter than outrage. Every channel ran the same clip. Malik standing at a Pentagon ceremony 3 years earlier, the president pinning the gold starburst medal onto his chest as applause thundered. Then, the footage cut to him kneeling in the rain, hands cuffed, eyes hollow. The contrast said everything. At a diner across town, Officer Kane sat hunched in a booth, staring at his own reflection in a mug of cold coffee. The television behind the counter replayed the arrest. Over and over, the line he couldn't escape echoed in the anchor's voice. You people are always making mistakes. He rubbed his temples. They twisted it. He muttered. That the sergeant across from him, an older cop with 25 years on the force, gave a weary sigh. Doesn't matter. Once it's out, it's out. I didn't mean it that way. Doesn't matter what you meant, Brad. The department's putting you on leave. Kane's jaw clenched. Temporary. For now. The sergeant pushed back from the booth. You should lay low. No press. No social media. It'll blow over. But nothing was blowing over. The union released a statement defending officers under siege. The police chief offered a carefully worded apology to any parties who may have felt disrespected. Every sentence built a wall around accountability. Meanwhile, Malik's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Veterans groups, civil rights organizations, talk shows, everyone wanted a quote, a face, a headline. He refused them all. The only person he spoke to outside family was Tyrone. They met at a small park, away from cameras. Tyrone handed him a folded newspaper. They're calling it the medal incident. Malik read the headline, expression unreadable. So, the medal matters now. You earned that thing with blood. Maybe it's what they need to see. Malik shook his head. That medal didn't stop the cuffs, didn't stop the gun in my face. Tyrone's voice softened. But it's proof, man. Proof you're more than what he saw. Malik looked out over the playground where Alina laughed with other kids, her world still whole. I shouldn't have to prove anything. That night, a news anchor addressed the camera with solemn gravity. Sergeant Hayes's Medal of Honor, once a symbol of valor, has become a flashpoint in America's reckoning with race and respect. Kane watched from his living room, curtains drawn, the walls felt smaller every hour. Calls from colleagues went unanswered. His wife had stopped speaking to him altogether after his recorded remarks surfaced. His teenage son refused to come downstairs. On screen, Malik's military photo filled the frame. Crisp uniform, steady gaze. The caption below read, "He fought for his country fought him." Kane hurled the remote at the wall. The plastic cracked but didn't break. Meanwhile, at Malik's apartment, letters began arriving, hundreds of them, some handwritten, trembling with emotion, others typed and formal, from strangers, veterans, students. One from a retired Marine read, "Sergeant Hayes, I've worn that medal too. It doesn't make us immune, it just reminds us who we serve and who doesn't see us." Malik folded the letter carefully and slipped it into a drawer. He thought of silence, how it used to protect him overseas, how it had failed him here. That evening, a news van parked outside his building. The reporter called up from the sidewalk, polite but relentless. "Sergeant Hayes, do you forgive Officer Kane?" Malik closed the blinds. Forgive. The word felt heavy, misplaced, like asking a man still bleeding if he'd forgotten the knife. He sat at his desk, the Medal of Honor resting before him. Its polished surface reflected his face, but distorted. Blurred by the room's dim light, he picked it up, felt its weight. This wasn't vindication. It was irony cast in metal. Somewhere downtown, people were still chanting his name, waving signs, but Malik knew the cycle. Outrage would fade. The next story would replace his still. Something inside him hardened. If they were going to remember him, it wouldn't be as a victim, that it would be as a soldier still standing. Days after the hearing, Malik's face still haunted the news cycle, every broadcast, every social feed. Some called him a hero, others called him an agitator. Every headline stole a piece of him. His phone never stopped vibrating. Messages from veterans, journalists, lawyers, strangers who wanted him to speak out, to lead a movement, to forgive and heal. He wanted none of it. Inside his apartment, blinds drawn, the world narrowed to four walls and silence. The medal sat untouched on the table, a reminder and a burden. Alina's laughter drifted faintly from the next room as she played with her toys. That sound kept him from breaking, but each time he closed his eyes, the image returned. Rain, handcuffs, the sound of Kane's voice. "You people are always making mistakes." He poured himself a glass of water. His reflection in the window looked foreign, tired. Tyrone knocked and let himself in. "You look like you haven't slept." "Can't," Malik said. "Media's not slowing down. The department's talking settlement. They want to keep it quiet. I'm not interested in money." "I know, but they are. They think throwing a check at you will fix their conscience." Malik gave a dry laugh. Their conscience was never broken. Tyrone sat down. "You've got options, man. Lawyers lining up. You could sue, write a book, go public. People would listen." Malik shook his head. "People listen, then move on. I'm not a headline to them. I'm a moment." Tyrone leaned forward, eyes hard. "You're a man who got humiliated for no reason. That has to mean something." Malik stared at the medal across the table. "It means I survived. That's all." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Malik's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "You're making it worse for yourself. Drop it." Tyrone saw his expression shift. "What's that?" "Coward with a phone." Malik deleted the message. They always hide behind something. Tyrone nodded slowly. "You ever think about what comes next?" "Next," Malik exhaled. "I used to think next meant peace. Now, I'm not sure what that looks like." Later that night, Malik sat alone on the couch, scrolling through the endless noise. Commentators argued about whether he had provoked Kane, whether the officer's life was being destroyed over one mistake. He shut it off. The silence pressed in again, then the knock came, sharp. Sudden. He opened the door to find a white envelope on the floor. No name. Inside, a single photo. Him, from years ago, in uniform, standing beside his platoon. On the back, someone had written in block letters, "Stay in your place." Malik's chest tightened. He tore the photo in half and dropped it in the trash. In the dark, Alina's small voice called from her room. "Daddy." He steadied himself before answering. "Yeah, baby. Are you sad?" He swallowed hard, just thinking about the bad man, About what comes after, he said quietly. She nodded, her sleepy voice soft. Mom says good people win in the end. He managed a thin smile. Sometimes, when she fell back asleep, he stood by the window, city lights flickering below. Somewhere out there, Kane was probably hiding too, suspended, angry, unraveling. Malik didn't want revenge. He wanted truth to matter. But truth didn't trend. He picked up the metal again. The reflection in its surface showed not a soldier, not a victim, just a man trying to remember who he was before the world decided for him. He whispered into the empty room, "If this is what justice feels like, it's colder than war." And for the first time since that night in the rain, Malik Hayes felt something close to breaking, not from weakness, but from carrying the weight of being seen and still doubted. He closed his hand around the metal, steadying himself. Morning would come, cameras would return, the story would keep spinning. But tonight, the silence belonged to him. The city felt different now, heavier, slower, like it was holding its breath. The press conference had been announced for 9 a.m. sharp at police headquarters. The department promised full transparency. Malik didn't plan to attend, but when he woke that morning, something told him he couldn't stay away. He dressed quietly, no uniform this time, no symbols, just a plain black shirt. The Medal of Honor hung around his neck, hidden beneath the fabric, a reminder to himself more than anyone else. Outside, the air was damp with early fog. Reporters crowded the steps of the building. Cameras flashed. Protesters held signs. Justice for Malik Hayes. Accountability now. No more silence. Inside the press room, the tension crackled. Every officer in attendance wore the same tight-lipped expression of damage control. Chief Rowan stepped up to the podium, face composed. After thorough review and public scrutiny, Officer Kane has been terminated effective immediately. He began. A wave of murmurs rippled through the room. Rowan continued, "The department will undergo mandatory bias training," and the door opened in the back. Heads turned. Kane walked in, not in uniform, in plainclothes, eyes red, jaw tight. The crowd erupted into confusion. "Sir, this is a private," someone started, but Kane shoved past. "You're firing me to save your own image," he shouted at the chief. "You let the media destroy me." Flashes went off. Reporters surged forward. Rowan held up a hand. "Officer Kane, please step outside." Kane laughed bitterly. "You all loved me when I was making arrests. Now I'm the villain." He turned, his eyes locking on Malik standing near the wall. You think you're some kind of hero?" The room froze. Malik met his stare, calm but cold. "No, just a man who wanted to get home." The words hit harder than any shout. Kane's jaw trembled, rage and shame colliding behind his eyes. Security moved in, guiding him away as he barked one last line. "You ruined my life." Malik didn't respond. He didn't have to. The press swarmed him next. Microphones thrust forward. "Mr. Hayes, do you forgive him? What do you want to happen now? Do you think justice was served?" Malik's voice came steady. "Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. I just want a world where this doesn't happen again, to anyone." That line hit headlines within minutes. It went viral. Quoted, twisted, praised, but Malik didn't stay to see it. Outside, he found Tyrone waiting by the curb. "You handled that like a damn diplomat," Tyrone said. Malik exhaled. "I didn't say anything that should be news." They walked together through the crowd. Protesters cheered when they saw him. Phones lifted like torches. Malik waved once, politely, then kept moving. "Where to now?" Tyrone asked. "Home. Maybe later I'll visit my mother's grave." Tyrone nodded quietly. "You good?" "No," Malik said honestly, "but I'm better than I was." They reached the car just as a reporter yelled from behind, "Malik, any words for Officer Kane?" He stopped, turned slightly, and said, he saw a threat. "I wish he'd seen a man." Then, he got in the car and drove away. Later that night, Malik sat at his kitchen table again, the metal still in his hand. The world outside buzzed with the noise of his story, news alerts, social media storms, opinion panels. But inside, the quiet was deeper now. On the counter, Alina's school drawing from the week before. Daddy the soldier smiled back at him in crayon. He smiled faintly. The battle wasn't over, but the war had shifted. Somewhere out there, Kane was watching the same coverage, realizing too late that his own downfall wasn't Malik's doing. It was his own reflection, finally shown to the world. Malik whispered to himself, "Maybe now, someone will start listening." The city lights outside flickered like distant stars, cold and constant. Tomorrow, he'd speak at the community center, not as a soldier, not as a victim, but as a man still learning how to live after being broken by the system he'd once served. A month later, the world had moved on, but Malik hadn't. The protests had thinned, the hashtags faded, news anchors spoke of progress before cutting to lighter stories. Yet, in the cracks of the country's conscience, something still pulsed, a discomfort that refused to die. Malik walked through the community center, the smell of coffee and old paint hanging in the air. Flyers covered the walls. Veterans outreach, youth mentorship, know your rights workshop. He'd started volunteering here 2 weeks ago, not because he wanted attention, because silence felt like surrender. Sergeant Hayes, a voice called. A young man, barely 20, wearing a hoodie and nervous eyes, stood by the door. "You really gonna talk to us today?" Malik smiled faintly. "That's the plan." The boy nodded. "They say you stood up to that cop. They say you didn't let him break you." Malik paused, looking out the window before replying. "He did break me, but I learned how to stand again." When the session began, the room filled with students, veterans, mothers, faces that carried both fear and fire. Malik spoke slowly, not like a preacher, but like someone rebuilding truth, piece by piece. "I wore this country's uniform," he said. "I fought for freedoms I thought were guaranteed. Then one night, I realized some of us have to fight for them twice, once abroad and once at home." The room was still. He continued, "You don't fight hate with hate. You fight it by existing where they said you didn't belong, by staying alive, loud, and human." A single clap broke the silence, then another, until the entire room echoed. Later, as people lingered, a woman approached him, mid-40s, wearing a police badge around her neck. "Sergeant Hayes," she said softly. "My name's Officer Linda Parks. I work internal affairs. I thought you should know, the department's changing some protocols. Bias training isn't just a checkbox anymore." Malik studied her face. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No," she said. "It's supposed to make you know it mattered." He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. She handed him a small envelope. Inside, a printed statement, signed by the chief, admitting procedural failure and publicly apologizing. The city would name a scholarship fund for veterans of color in Malik's name. He didn't smile. He just whispered, "Too many of us had to bleed for that sentence." Parks lowered her eyes. "Yes, but maybe fewer will, now." As she left, Malik stood in the empty hall, fingers brushing the edge of the envelope. Justice hadn't been clean or full, but it was real, and that mattered more. That evening, he visited his mother's grave. The cemetery was quiet, the sun low. He knelt beside the stone and placed the medal at its base. "I finally used it for something, Ma," he murmured. "Not war, truth." A breeze lifted, soft against his cheek, like approval dot behind him. Footsteps crunched the gravel. Tyrone's voice followed. "You talk to her every time you come here." "Man," Malik smiled. "She listens better than most people." Tyrone crouched beside him. Heard Kane took a plea deal, resisting charges. "He's done. No badge, no pension." Malik stared ahead. "Poetic, maybe, but I don't celebrate broken men." "You're a better man than me," Tyrone muttered. "Not better," Malik said. "Just tired." They stood in silence for a long time, watching the horizon bleed gold into gray. Finally, Tyrone asked, "What now?" Malik looked down at his mother's grave, then at the distant city. "Now I live. That's enough." He turned, the last light of sunset framing his silhouette, not as a hero, not as a victim, but as something rarer, a survivor who had wrestled dignity from a system built to erase it. Weeks later, a documentary aired titled The Medal and the Badge. It opened with Malik's line, replayed over black screen. He saw a threat. "I wish he'd seen a man." Clips followed, protests, the press conference, the viral video ending with Malik speaking at the community center, his voice calm, resolute. In the background, a quiet instrumental swelled as the narrator closed. "In a country built on the promise of freedom, justice is not a gift. It is a demand, repeated, resisted, reclaimed, then fade to black." Malik's voice returned one last time. "My name is Sergeant Malik Hayes. I served my country, and I'm still waiting for it to serve me back." The screen went silent, and for once, the silence was enough.